Okay, welcome to the truck. Anybody had trouble with the elixirs? We are going to rebuild a couple of calipers with caliper kit. That caliper kit. Hopefully this is all it takes. I'm sick and tired of writing these off and throwing them away. All people have to do is stay up with this stuff. Kind of misunderstood. These calipers, for some reason or another, there's some sort of issue between I don't know if it's the size of the piston relative to the bore. I don't know whether it's the seal material, the little O-ring, these little guys, whether they're just too soft. Remember that the idea here, when the fluid pushes the piston out, it deforms the seal, and that deformation of the seal is what pulls the piston back. And these elixirs have a horrible problem of of holding the piston out in the pad out toward the rotor and making it rub. And then they pump up, and then when you go to use the actual rotor, or you go to use the actual brake, you apply the brake. It feels like when you pull a brake on, the pad's right there. There's no actual modulation. There's no free play. There's no movement. And so what we're trying to get to here is getting to a point where the piston pushes out, the seal deforms, and then when you let off the brake, it all goes back to where it's supposed to go to. So right now I'm just disassembling these pistons out of their bores, and we're going to see whether a simple kit, which at Velocity is $30, will fix the issue. Well, let's find out. This is all stuff that we'd probably do in the truck, but in this case, we're in the shop today. So to get these pistons out of the bores, I've got to apply a little bit of compressed air to the back side. Got to get them. You just got to get the piston to come out of the bore. Sorry. Compressor came on. There we go. There's one. Shot it across the shop, but there it is. And basically up inside here, there's a little seal. Probably see it right there. I'm gonna pick that out, and you got to be super careful that you don't hurt the bore there where the O-ring sits. You can peel it right out. And sure enough, these guys are pretty soft. Like if I put the piston in where the O-ring is supposed to go, that slides nice and everything, but it actually isn't made to slide. It's made to grab the O-ring and deform it outward. It's a hard sort of thing to show on video, but it's designed to sort of deform outward, and then it pulls the piston back in. So I'm going to clean these as best I can, and we're going to change O-rings, do a bleed, and see if we can fix these up. Otherwise, the next obvious thing to do is a set of MT200 Shimano's. Shops all over the place. Keep those in stock for this reason, where the brakes that are presented, be they crappy mechanicals or failed Avid elixirs, if I'm honest. Sometimes the only fix is to grab the cheapest the cheapest pre-bled brake on the market, which is currently the MT200 Shimano. And yeah, basically they slap them on and you're up the road. Now, arguably the Shimano MT200 is a really good brake. Up with some brake fluid and gets pushed into the seal, so that guy's good. Just using some .5 on my fingers to lube that up before I install it. And the best way to do this, okay, we got a seal that we need to get into a groove. I don't know if you can see that. So what we're doing is we're doing this, and then we're inserting into a groove to get it started. And believe it or not, it'll fit. This is like doing, if those of you that have done 50-hour services on your shocks and your forks, especially on an air can on a Fox or a RockShox shock, you'll have you need to give the seal a pinch and then insert it into its groove and then spread it around. That's it'll go. It'll go. Unless you're totally blowing it and you've got the wrong seals, you'll know it. It'll be impossible. It's kind of like building a wheel with too short a spoke. You just cannot get it together. You just wiggle that guy down, just rock it down in there, and it'll go down. And then you are set. Just bolt that together. There's an O-ring that'll interface with that hole there. Goes on that other caliper half. Just a little teeny little fella like that. There's a groove on the caliper. On the side, on the half of the caliper where the fluid comes in, there's a receiver groove for that O-ring. Stick the halves back together. And bang. You're done. Hope you guys like Pantera. I'm old and I'm listening to YouTube a lot, and I'm listening to Pantera and Tool and Radiohead and then some funk and some old disco and then you name it. But I'm a child of the 60s and the 70s, so it's Led Zeppelin and Rush gets me through. Okay, that guy's ready to rock. Stick it on the bike, bleed it. The kit comes with brand new pistons and seals. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if these pistons have been swimming around in the old soft seals, they're probably grooved up a little bit from moving too much through the seal. Remember, the seal's supposed to grab the piston a bit, and the seal's supposed to do the work. So, new pistons and seals, and that should be fine. Now I've gone and shortened this line too, so I have to put some new hardware on the end here, but we'll get to it. So we'll just put this on tight enough so that when I install the fitting, when I turn the fitting onto the caliper to crush the little crush sleeve, the little olive, that it will do it. But I'll have to definitely loosen these back off to actually get a good get them positioned relative to the rotor. So obviously they're going to be a little bit off. A lot easier to do this with the wheel off, so let's put that over there. Okay, I'm going to move this bleed outside into the truck where all my good stuff is, and we'll see you out there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a syringe onto the lever blade, onto the lever, and push all the air out. You sure don't need me doing a bleed video. Sure, heaven knows there's enough of them on the internet, but suffice it to say your average avid bleed video will explain to you how air bubbles get removed, etc. Lock her down. So I'll use the bleeds up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the caliper off the bike at the back. So remember that I'm trying to get all the air out of that caliper, so I'm going to have it as low as possible. One of the things they miss is a lot of times when people go to do these bleeds, the caliper's sitting uphill. So I'm going to have it dangling under the bike down here. And then we'll give ourselves the best chance at success. So remember, we still got some brake fluid in the system. Cap your brake fluid so it's hydroscopic, it'll pull in water. Still got some brake fluid in the system, so I'm probably going to push a bit out of the lever here, push it down toward the caliper first. Just to push a little bit through. I want to have a look at the condition of the fluid. I suspect it's kind of dirty. That might be okay. I think the fluid that was in the calipers when I pulled them apart wasn't horrible. So yeah, we shall see. Okay, good. So, caliper nice and low. We're going to open up this guy. And I've got a block in where the pads would go, just to keep the pistons as far apart as possible. If you have any kind of a pad adjust up here, you have to open it up all the way. And avids are interesting because it's a three-part bleed. Basically, you know, you generally push the air in and out of the fluid in and out of the system and get the air out of the system. And then you have to isolate the caliper. So close the syringe down here, and then you have to then you just kind of work the lever, and then you isolate the lever, and then you work the caliper. It's a bit of a pain. It's not like Shimano at all, where you just get the air bubbles out. It's kind of a little different. Okay, so I'm pushing fluid and air bubbles up into the syringe here. Fluid looks just okay. Now I'm going to push back the other way. And definitely we're getting a lot of air out of that caliper. Excellent. Okay. Pushing back. Probably see this syringe getting fuller and fuller of fluid as I push. Anyway, trying to get all the air bubbles out and orient this caliper in all kinds of different ways to, yeah, there's some air bubbles now, so that's good. Push back down, see if you got any more pop out at the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to close this syringe up here, and the syringe is still open at the bottom. Grab myself I keep a leather toe strap in the truck. Just keep an old Christoph toe strap in the truck just in case. And what we need to do is we need to isolate all of those ports in the lever blade, in the lever body, in the master cylinder. Really, we need to isolate those so that when we're pushing and pulling on the caliper back here, we're not pushing and pulling fluid out of the lever. It's kind of an avid thing. We don't have to do it on any of the others, but basically just gently pull it in toward the lever till the bottoms. So now, if you can imagine, all of the mechanism in the lever is down here now. So the master cylinder here and then two little ports that lead down to the main bore are isolated. So they're not part of the picture right now. They're isolated completely. We'll just tighten this up so that it stays at the bar. Beautiful. Okay, so now down here what I want to do is I want to pull a little bit of air. I want to apply a bit of pressure. And then I'm going to pull, because there's still some air bubbles coming out. You can't see it. Again, it's not a lever, it's not a bleed video, but trust me when I tell you there's still some significant air being pulled. You just have to be patient, apply a little bit of a vacuum and watch the air bubbles come back up in. Sometimes a little tap of the wrench goes a long way too. Apply a little bit of pressure, pull back, apply a little pressure. I'm getting no air bubbles now, just for what it's worth. Good. Apply a little bit of pressure. I'm now going to close this down here, and we are going to, oh yeah, sorry, open that, pull off our toe strap. Syringe stays closed here because the fluid that I want to push into the system is going to come from the bottom, and I'm gently going to push and allow that lever blade to come back out to where it's supposed to be. Okay? Close down here. So that's isolated out of the system. And now at this point I want to do a similar situation where I apply a bit of pressure, apply a bit of vacuum, just to tease any bubbles out. While I'm applying a vacuum here, give the lever blade a flick. There's actually no bubbles coming out. Oh, there's one. And again, you just got to be patient on it. So we're just dealing completely with the fluid that's really in the master, in so much as the caliper is isolated from the system. So those of you that are doing Shimano bleeds with mineral oil and a little funnel at the top, if that's all you've ever done for bleeding, you've missed it. Back in the days when we had haze brakes all over the place, like the early haze stuff, the HFX9s and the Sols. Sols weren't bad, but the HFX9s were a bit of a freak show, and everybody had to. We all had to deal with all these different ways to bleed a brake. Now it's reasonably simple, but it still pays to have. I think really what it pays to have is just to have the principles of the physics of what you're doing down. And then across the board, when you see a situation, you got that breadth of knowledge, so you know what to do. So if you have a chance to, to bleed some dodgy brakes, take a shot at it. You never know. It's hard to see, but I got an air bubble there. I'm just trying to tease it up, and as soon as I do, I'm going to close this system. Every time I get one up, I can feel the lever to being a little firmer, a little firmer. And remember, what the goal here is we put new pistons in, and I want those pistons to pop back and get those pads well away from the caliper, well away from the rotor rather, so we don't have trouble. Okay, that's nice. So I'm going to lock that down, and we should be able to put the bleed screw back in here. Same thing at the bottom, and we should have a lever. And you know what? It's Avid. You might have to do this more than once. It's a bit of a pain. Maybe that's part of the reason we're putting MT200 Shimanos on all the time in replacement of these. But no question, these brakes, these old Avid Elixirs, tons of bikes came with them, You couldn't buy the white one. It's at OEM. So if you see them on bikes, they've been on there for a long time. And you know, if you're buying a used bike, you might be buying that bike because that person's pissed off with their brakes. So, you know, let's just see if this works. It's the first time I've done it. Again, I'm doing it out of being mad about throwing them away all the time. Maybe I'll learn my lesson finally. Who knows? Okay, so let's keep it low so as not to introduce any air into the system. Looks good. Don't overlook the little O-rings around the bleed ports as well. They get torn up and they get wrecked. And then your brake bleeding is for naught because they're pulling air in. All right, let's see what we got. Feels not too bad. I'm going to put some pads in, put the wheel on. It's the only real way to know if brake block is in there. Is easily wider than the way the pads are when they're in the caliper and the way that interacts with the wheel. So let me grab the wheel and the nuts and the screws and everything, and we'll put it back together. That worked. That feels beautiful and light in the finger. It doesn't feel you know, you don't have that heavy feel, and then that really vague release of the lever. The lever snaps back, and that all has to do with how soft the old seals were. The pistons were actually moving within the seals, which to some extent you want, but in operation you don't. You want the seal to only flex outward, and that draws the piston back. So in this case, the seals got super soft, and it's worth putting the kit in to save these things. Otherwise, go on eBay. You'll see these on eBay. They won't work. You'll have to put a kit in them. Don't buy them. But if you have them on your own bike, don't give up on them.